Hello and welcome, everybody. This is your host, Kim D. Foster, to the Heal It Show today. You know, there's a lot of turmoil going on in the world today. There's people that are really sad. They've gone through challenges in their own lives, or politically, or in the environment, or maybe with their children or their family. There's just a lot going on, and this show is for you. This show is a show to be able to heal some of those challenges that you might have in your life, to be able to see different points of view that resonate with you, to be able to upshift your thinking, upshift your life, and be able to take it to a place where you're actually feeling happiness, you're feeling joy, you're feeling a connection of oneness with God, with your fellow beings on this planet, and you're in a place where there's joy, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Today's the day we're going to be talking about spiritual healing. We're going to talk about some of the principles to bring in the light into your auric field, into your body, into your mental, emotional, physical fields, that you start to feel better. You start to have more energy, more power, more passion in your life. You know, it's like some people are walking around out there, and it's like the light is turned off, right? But turning the light back on is not hard. It's I'll just use a metaphor. You walk into your office and you click the light switch, and boom, the light's back on. How did you do that? Well, it took willpower, right? It took intention. It took you to take some action, and that's really what we're going to be talking about today. Right? But we're going to give you some techniques that hopefully will shift you in ways that you think that might really help you to tune into that light in a greater way. All right. Listen, I've got a very special guest. He's a friend of mine. We've known each other for decades. He's on the show today, and I think you'll be amazed at who it is. So stay tuned. I'm going to take a quick break, and then when I come back, we will have my guest.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor or 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Back, everybody. This is your host, Ken D. Foster, and as I promised, I have a very special person on my show today. His name is Neil Mintz. Neil, so good to have you. Welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Ken. Appreciate being on your show. Looking forward.
So I mentioned that Neil and I, as friends, go back, a few decades. He's a personal friend of mine. He's also a man that has been on a quest, along with me, on a spiritual quest to really awaken his soul to greater levels and awaken mine. Now, currently, he's on the faculty of the Spiritual Arts Institute, which is a metaphysical school for the aura healing and spiritual growth. Neil teaches metaphysics and meditation at the Institute, where he's been immersed in ongoing study of metaphysics for the last 15 years. And he's been a divine light healer for more than 10 years. We'll find out what that is in a little bit. In pursuit of ending a lifelong battle with anxiety, he was eventually led to the power of divine light for healing. It was the use of divine light and the spiritual healing practices and principles that finally led to the relief that Neil had sought. In this results-oriented aspect of the metaphysical work that fuels his deep commitment to his own spiritual development and passion to help others that are ready for their true transformation, these are the principles we're going to be talking about today. Also, I just want to put a disclosure, because you and I talked about this ahead of time, that Neil does not the views that Neil expresses don't necessarily express the views of the Spiritual Art Institute. Neil is a student there, and he came on because he wants to bring his points of view, his stories to you, my audience. How's that, Neil?
Good.
Okay. Well, okay, we kind of got into that piece where, you were at a place where you were a seeker for many years, trying to, what drove you, I guess, to God is that you had this anxiety going on, and you didn't figure out, you were looking for a way to heal that. Is that accurate? Is that where your story started with this?
Correct. Well, my journey started really on a healing path where I wanted to overcome anxiety, which I had really from my earliest memory. I always felt anxiety. I felt this knot in my stomach. It was ongoing. It was constant. I actually thought that's kind of just maybe how a stomach feels, right? But I knew it was uncomfortable. I knew I wasn't happy. And as I got older, I started really questioning and saying, no, this is not normal. Other people aren't feeling this, right? But at that stage, I didn't have religion in my life. I didn't have spirituality in my life. So I thought my anxiety was just over the fact that there was uncertainty in the world and uncertainty in my life, right? And that, I guess I became a material quest, so to speak, right? Because I thought, okay, happiness is rooted in, at that stage, I had financial insecurity. I didn't have a family. I didn't have a girlfriend, right? So I had kind of a bucket list of all the things that I thought would make me happy. And, and that included, of course, financial independence, a home, a wonderful wife, wonderful kids, all the rest. And, of course, I pursued it, and I was very successful in all those areas. And then in my early to mid 40s, I did reach the place where I looked at my list and I said, wow, I got all these things. How blessed I am. Except I didn't feel any more happy. And in fact, I call it like the saddest day of my life was the day I reached all my goals, right? Because until that point, it's like, okay, well, maybe I just need more money or more this or more that. But then once I had it, it's like, what do I do now? I don't want to live, my life this way. So I would say that was the very beginning part of my quest to explore other opportunities. And I won't go through a whole long list of all the things I did, but it involved a lot of, meditation and looking at different spiritual practices. And little by little, I started to feel like, especially meditation, just, I don't even know how to describe it. Peace, joy, right? And I realized, and didn't feel the anxiety. And really what I realized is I was just feeling normal. I was kind of just like what people feel when they don't have anxiety, but it was such a contrast. So in any case, that eventually led me to metaphysics and to spiritual arts, where the much deeper work began, not only on self-healing, but also as a healer myself.
Well, I did some research just last week on what the psychologists call baseline stress. Baseline stress is unconscious stress that we feel, or a nervousness, just this underlying that something's off. What you explained, that anxiety, right? And they say that over half the population right now in the United States is feeling this baseline stress. And unfortunately, people don't know what to do with it. The doctors don't know how to diagnose it. You can go to therapy for many, many years. And the truth is, you may or may not be able to release that baseline stress. I feel in my heart of hearts that, we know it can be mental, emotional, physically, and spiritual. We know that stress can be that. But a large part of people there that can heal this is through a spiritual path like you did. That's my bias. And so, how do we get to health consciousness? Like you found Spiritual Arts Institute. We could talk a little bit about that. But, how do we define health consciousness, I guess, and then how do we get to it?
Yeah, great question, Ken. And, you mentioned health consciousness, and that's exactly actually how we call it. It's a consciousness. We look at consciousness as it's a vibration, it's a state of mind, but it's even more than that. It's what we embody. So there's consciousness of love. There's consciousness of courage. There's consciousness of peace, right? But there's also a health consciousness. And it starts within. Just to, give you kind of a tagline or whatever, the first book that Barbara Martin and Dimitri Moretis, the founders of Spiritual Arts Institute, that they wrote, it was a spiritual bestseller, is Change Your Aura, Change Your Life, right? And really, that's a spiritual law. If you change it first in consciousness, in your aura, it will manifest in your life. So we put a lot of focus on how do we change our consciousness of health. And in particular, when we look at health, we look at it as not only our divine right to be healthy, but we don't look at disease in the same way as, let's say, a lot of medical professionals, right? We look at ourselves as inherently healthy, inherently well-being. Yes, we could have an experience where we might be experiencing some, stress and experiencing disease, right? But that's how we have to look at it. Because if you look at it from that perspective, then you could say anything can be healed, because in consciousness, it is kind of our baseline, so to speak, in terms of where we're at.
I like that, and let's define something too. Let's define, because we're talking about being able to, heal some of these underlying stressors, and it's healed through what we would call, spiritual energy or prana or life force energy, or there's many different words for this, or the light. Is that what we're talking about here when we're talking where your path is?
Right. So when we define light, right, or divine, we can say energy, spiritual energy. It's called by many names: spiritual energy, divine light. We call that a conduit of consciousness. It brings in the consciousness that we're looking for. So as I said before, if we're looking for love, if that's what, let's say we're not feeling loving, or we're feeling judging, or we're feeling we have to have some forgiveness, right? Then we'll bring in the consciousness of love, and we do that through the divine light. So in our work, divine love, right, is brought in through the deep rose pink ray. So we will bring that in meditation. That's actually what we are channeling when we are doing a healing. If we're giving a healing to somebody, but we're using the deep rose pink ray to bring in the consciousness of love. Similarly, if we're looking for peace, it's purple. If we're looking for balance, it's emerald green. There's these different rays. So we call that spiritual energy. Yeah, yes, of course, in other traditions, prana has a kind of a different meaning. You do bring in light with the prana. That's kind of, I get a little bit on the side, but it's divine light that brings in the consciousness, including the consciousness of health, right? The sapphire is the most powerful healing ray. So we as students or as healers, right, that's a major ray we're going to bring in. But I also want to point out another one that's probably the most critical, and you kind of brought it up, Ken, when you're talking about how half the world, feels stress. A lot of time, it's just letting go, releasing some of that stuff out of our aura, out of our, and the aura really is the energetic blueprint of who we are, right? So it's around us, it's within us. So we use a very purifying ray called the orange-red flame of purification. And it releases, it lets go. because we're not supposed to feel stress. That's not a normal state of being, right? Even though, just as I was explaining about my anxiety, I would actually affirm I'm a worrier. I would just tell people I'm a worrier as if that's who I am, right? Now, clearly, if I'm not anymore, it never was who I was. So that's the other thing about holding the consciousness, not identifying with that illness and using the divine light to release blocks and then bring in, what we're looking for.
Deal. Well, and I think you're making a good point here too. It's let me just phrase it in another way. So like worrying, for instance, worrying is not a natural state. Although some people think that is natural to them and they start to identify themselves as a worrier like you did, right? But what we're looking for, and when you let that go, is there was a coherence with source. In other words, there was a place where you reconnected with the soul. I'll use that word, with the soul that's pure. That's in harmony with God, with the universe. So there's a coherence, and when that aligns, what I'm hearing you say is when you are back in and using these rays to align oneself back to their natural state of being, that's when the healing starts to take place. Is that accurate, or how would you say that?
Yes. No. Yeah. Correct. And essentially, we recognize. And you said it in different words, it's all the same, it's always accurate. But we recognize that the source of health, the source of love, the source of peace is God. Call it what you want to call it. We call it God, right? That's where it all comes from. So yes, absolutely, that connection with that. And often, it's somewhat broken, right? But the stronger we connect with that in meditation, in our daily life, in applying the principles, in receiving healing, we have a stronger connection with the source of health and source of well-being. And yes, to the point that you made, it can restore us back to our natural state, which is pure health, right? Now, even though we might be, again, experiencing a malady, something in our physical body, well, we can acknowledge it, right? But we don't want to identify with it, because when we identify with it, we take that on. It's kind of the opposite of a health consciousness, right? It's really a lack.
Well, it's interesting, and I have to take a break here, but what I find is interesting is some of these, like the worry habit. I call it a habit, because once you're in it, you've built a whole world around, this is who I am, this is what I've done, this is how it is, There's a lot of a mindset around this habit that is formed, and habits are difficult to break sometimes. They just are. And I like what you were saying, and we'll talk about more about this in the break. But so to make that shift back into the natural state, into the state of your divine birthright, which is health, right? To make that shift, it takes some work. And I want to talk a little bit about that work when we get back. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Neil Mintz.
Imagine this is your money, and someone wants to take it from you. Who is it? The IRS. Guess what? They want your money, and they can take it, all of it if they want. Remember, they sent you that letter right over here that said, hey, you owe us a bunch of cash and we're going to take it from you right now. So what do? You fight back by letting our team of experts work it out with the IRS so you can keep your money. And hey, we're good at what we do. When you hire us, you get a team of guys on your side that know the IRS laws, and we'll fight really hard to save your money. So if you owe the IRS a ton of cash and you want to keep it, call right now and learn for free how we can help you put it back in your pocket. 5 minutes of your time right now can save you thousands of dollars. And the best part, it's a free call. So please call right now.
Hi, this is your host, Ken D. Foster. Before I get back to my very special guest, Neil Mintz, I want to mention this to you. You know, this show grows because you pass it on, our audience passes it on to their family, their friends, and people that they love, so that we can bring truth, courage, and wisdom into the healing mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So it's kind of up to you. You know, I hope today's the day that you say, you know what, I'm gonna subscribe on YouTube to this wonderful show, and I'm also going to pass it on to one person. I appreciate it if you do that. Thank you so much. All right. So for those of you that just joined us, Neil Mintz is on the faculty of Spiritual Arts Institute, which is the metaphysical school for aura healing and spiritual growth. Neil, all right. Some of the work we have to do, like I was saying about habits. Habits are difficult to break sometimes, right? Especially if we, you know, I want to say this before we get into your work. If you have symptoms of anxiety, you have something that's not working in your life, you have something that feels off in your life, those are just symptoms of something that's underlying whatever that is. And the work we're talking about here that Neil does, and I want you to, you know the reason I brought him on is for my audience to know about Spiritual Arts Institute and where they can go to find some of the teachings that Neil is talking about today, so that you can also, whatever is bothering you, whatever it is, there is a solution. There's cause and effect. So most of the time, the effects are the symptoms, right? And, what we want to do is get to the cause. That's the whole purpose of this. Neil, getting to that cause and living a healthier, more balanced life, more in harmony, more in coherence. What's the first steps here?
Well, the one thing we honor is that everybody's got their own unique path that that need to follow, that they're kind of driven to follow, right? So there's many paths for healing, but in particular, when we talk about spiritual healing, and it kind of segues from the last question and discussion, is recognizing again the source of health and well-being, which is God. It comes from from above. And, humans do channel that energy through healing and so forth. But essentially, we all have the ability, and we do it every day, it's to bring in that consciousness of well-being and health, or whatever area that we want to heal in. So, you don't need to have, religious belief or even spiritual belief to do that. You could just change your frame of mind in terms of accepting that, just as you said, Ken, right? These are symptoms. These are just temporary situations, and not acknowledging it. But again, recognizing that we can tap into that source of health and well-being. In particular, we are big proponents of meditation. Of course, there's all different forms of meditation, and all of them are honored. Any true tradition has that at the foundation. And in fact, at Spiritual Arts, it's a prerequisite to go on to any of our programs, is to start a meditation program. We have a course that does that. And in particular, what that course does is it teaches us how to bring in divine light so that we can shift those aspects of our consciousness. If we are, and I'll just use myself as an example, right? When I met Barbara Martin, who just passed earlier this year at the age of 95, she was a born clairvoyant. So she can see the aura, she can see the energy, right? And when I first met her, and this was a consultation, I wasn't yet a student, she saw the energy of worry and fear and anxiety in my aura, right? And it wasn't long after that I became a student. And she kept saying, Neil, work with the gold ray, right? So the gold ray is the ray of courage and confidence and self-esteem. And essentially that overcomes fear, right? So I just kept working with it, and it took, I'll just mention this as well. I had a deep determination because I suffered so long with anxiety. I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And it does take work. And that's kind of what you brought up earlier, Ken. A lot of people are looking for a magic pill, and in fact, not just a magic pill, but prescription drugs, right? We have anxiety, we go to the doctor, and we take Prozac or whatever it is. And look, I'm not putting down medication. There's medication that's life-saving. And if it temporarily is able to uplift you and get you out of a hole, I mean, that we honor all of that, right? And some people actually have conditions for, physiological that they need it. But
I will say this, Neil, the magic word was temporarily, right? So if you've been on these medications for years and years, so you got something chronic going on, what we want to do is find the root causes of that illness. And that's where we need to go with that.
exactly. I don't know if you're just masking it.
You're just masking it. So let's talk, Neil. What are some of the root causes of illness? I think this is an important piece from your point of view.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I would say the root cause is our thinking, how we think, right? So when we're experiencing emotional distress, right, whether it's anxiety or worry or angers or guilt or shame, any negative emotion, right? Of course, we feel it in our body, so it's very visceral, and we say, okay, I gotta shift that emotion. But we recognize that emotions start first from our thoughts, our thinking, right? Now, as you said, Ken, a lot of it are habits, right? So a lot of things are in our subconscious mind. They can be our conscious mind or subconscious mind, but the wounds that we carry, regardless of where we got them from, it's in our mind. If we can change our thinking, we can basically, it would definitely directly affect, our feeling nature, our emotions, and so forth. So we do a lot of work in redirecting our thoughts. So as an example, right, there's a lot of tools, right? But one we probably often heard of is affirmations, right? Which redirect, if we say something like, I am sick, right? We're just affirming it, right? Well, find an affirmation that's, no, I am perfect health. I am perfect well-being. So I would say it starts in our mind. And if we can shift how we think about health, how we think about well-being, how we think about ourselves, it will eventually manifest in our life.
100%. So mind is over our emotions, emotions over actions, actions over our results over our destiny. It's starting at the level of mind. And there is other causes. I'm just going to read a few because you gave me the insights here. What I love, misalignment with our physical and spiritual laws that cause us to experience disharmony physically, abusing our bodies, our belief that we can't, we don't deserve something, or we can't do something, or this will never change. Those kind of beliefs, like Neil was talking about the mind, and then of course, fear. So, I love what you said around fear. We use the opposite, which is the golden light that brings in the courage, the power, the willpower to overcome these fearful things. So I think there's some pieces there that I wanted to mention, even though they're on your notes. I wanted to mention because they're really powerful. So, here's the thing. What some people go, well, I like to be healthy, and, I've tried all this diet and that diet. I've tried this pill and that pill. I've tried going to the gym and not going to the gym. I've tried doing all kinds of things, and I'm still not healthy, and I'm just giving up, right? I think sometimes people don't realize the purpose of being healthy, right? The importance of expressing health in our life. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Right. Look, we don't want to identify with our body, but, we look at our body as a vehicle. It's a vehicle of our soul. Our soul is the essence of who we are, and we have to take care of this God-given vehicle that we were given, which is our physical body, because we call it expression. That how we're here in physical life, we're expressing it through our body. So we have to honor it. We have to take care of it. And yes, often we are abusing it. We're abusing it with what we consume, whether it's consuming, whether it's nutritionally, or whether it's what we're consuming, through our entertainment, right? Through our bad habits, right? This will all have a direct effect on our physical body. So I think it starts with first recognizing and honoring our body, and having the, mention will, right? It does take a strong willpower, because if we have habits that we recognize, and by the way, that's the first step, right? Is to recognize it, right? You're way ahead of the average person if you're just aware of, oh my goodness, doing, this habit, indulging in, whatever it is, and, too much sugar, or, not doing any kind of exercise or consuming this type of media, it brings me down. Awareness is the very, very first step to know that it's affecting you. And again, most of the people aren't even aware of what they're doing that's affecting their health. And then, of course, the next step after awareness, right, is having the determination, having the willpower, having the strength to say, I want to change it. And sometimes people, and this is totally fine, sometimes people have to hit kind of their own rock bottom, right, until they're motivated and say, I need to change it. As I said, for me, my rock bottom is living a life of anxiety where I said, I don't want to live this way anymore. For other people, it could be, at a much lower level, right? So some people have a higher tolerance for pain, so they really have to hit that rock bottom. But shows like this and so much other, the wonderful, great thing now is there's so much information out there, right? There's so much understanding of what causes our lack of well-being that we have not only the information, we also have the tools, and everybody is going to use different tools. So I would just encourage people, to first acknowledge that whatever's causing it can be changed. Every single thing, I like your words, how you said it, Ken, temporary. It's whatever the situation is, and it can all be changed.
Yeah. I think there's a couple other pieces I'm just going to plus with it. When I work with my clients, Neil, one of the things that I try to get to at the very beginning is the real reason for wanting change. The real reason, what's the purpose behind the purpose behind the purpose? It's that piece so that we start to tune in. I find that a lot of people don't really know who they are at a very deep level. They've heard, well, yeah, I'm the soul, or yeah, I'm a child of God or something, but they haven't realized that in their life. And I think when we start to really tune into the big why, okay, whatever that is for you, okay, I know I have my own why, and Neil has his, but but there is a universal why also. And when we start to understand that, people are able to wake up and be motivated because now they really have a purpose for that, and purpose drives us to manifest. Because let's face it, look at how many years it took for you to overcome that. I've had my own challenges with my own habits that have taken years to overcome. It takes what it takes, but you got to start somewhere. And you know what? I think the best place to start is start acting that acting as the example of what you want in your life. I got to take a break, but let's talk about that when I come right back. We'll be right back.
Hi, everyone watching at home. We're here to remind you that if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have live agents available right now to answer your questions and tell you how much your case is potentially worth. Hi, I'm Gina Bellich, here with spokesman and TV personality Tom Mustin with us in the Help Center. So, Tom, phones are really busy over there. Tell us what kind of calls you're seeing.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me here in the call center with you. We always enjoy talking to the viewers and getting folks the compensation that they deserve. We're seeing calls about all kinds of accidents, but the most common by far has been car accidents. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident that was not your fault, give us a call right now. You'll speak with a live person. They'll answer any questions you have and tell you if you have a case and how much your case is potentially worth.
Thanks, Tom. All right, folks at home, you heard it. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now.
Hi, folks. Joe Namath here. Did you know that I wear hearing aids? I love my hearing aids, and I am here to help you get a deal on the same brand I wear.
Don't waste thousands on expensive hearing aids when you can get MD Hearing's revolutionary Neo hearing aids for just $297 a pair. The Neo is a true hearing aid, not an amplifier. With rechargeable technology many customers say is superior to more expensive models. And you can get 2 Neo hearing aids with a 45-day risk-free trial, free shipping, and free lifetime US-based support for only $297. The Neo is nearly invisible with its tiny in-the-ear canal design.
Call my friends at MD Hearing and get the over-the-counter hearing aids that I use for you.
Call now and get not 1 but 2 Neo hearing aids for just $297.
800-789-7885. Again, that's 800-789-7885.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Ken D. Foster, your host. I'm speaking with my guest, Neil Mintz, who is a teacher at the Spiritual Arts Institute. He's also a spiritual healer. And we're talking about some of the ways that we can start to take ourselves down that path, no matter where we are in our life. Let's talk. There's two questions I have. Do we need to be an example of what we want in our life? And the other thing, the question is, do we have to believe like the light rays are working in order for them to work? Two questions, back to you.
Okay, great question. Well, let's start with the second question. No, you don't need to believe that the light works. The light comes to us whether we believe it or not. Now, we could talk a little bit about beliefs because we could have limiting beliefs, but the light works regardless, right? Our aura, which is our energy field, which is filled with light, doesn't lie. It showing us at this very moment that state of our being. If we're carrying worrying thoughts, it's going to show up. If we bring in rays to release that, it's going to be released. So regardless, but
what if we're a skeptic, though? What if we're a skeptic and we have like, well, it might work, it might not work. I don't know. What if that mindset versus the mindset that says, I am totally in, I have faith, I trust this is going to happen. Is there any difference of what shows up?
Great question. So when we have skepticism, right? And Barbara, again, who you were earlier, I had mentioned, she was a clairvoyant since the age of 3. She passed earlier this year, but saw the aura like nobody else. He actually saw Dorothy.
Let me insert, because you didn't do this earlier. Barbara was the founder of the Spiritual Arts Institute with Dimitri. How do you say Dimitri's last name? Okay, very good. All right, so go ahead.
Yeah, so they're the co-founders, and all the teachings and the books and the healing techniques, that they brought through. But going back to, if you have doubts and skepticism, right? So Barbara would see almost like a gray cloud above our head when we had thoughts of doubt and skepticism. Now, we recognize that when we're bringing in the light, we're bringing it in from our higher self, what we call our higher self point, which is above us. It's outside of our aura. It's in that place where it's not corrupted by what we call our mixed aura. We've got, enlightened energy and less enlightened energy. But essentially what it does is it blocks the flow of light. Now, we would not be alive if we weren't still receiving light, but definitely doubt, kind of blocks it. Even faith. In fact, that was one of the classes I was supporting in this we do these quarterly classes, and one of the topics was on faith, and we distinguish the difference between blind faith and what we call true faith, right? So blind faith is just believing it because somebody told you that, right? Where true faith is coming from, you mentioned motivation. There's a part of you that really believes it. Now, sometimes you got to try it. Like one of the things I really honor about this work, and Dimitri, who's now my living teacher, right, always says to the students, especially beginner students, says, look, don't believe me because I'm saying it. Believe me enough that you try it, right? And essentially apply these principles, apply the light in meditation and in your life, and you will see the changes for yourself. So that faith and belief it is a process. It does strengthen, but definitely when it strengthens, not only will it open up a stronger, flow, but to the point that you made, right? It's going to motivate you, right? Because if you don't believe it, you're not going to pursue it, right? And if you're overcoming, we keep using this example that I brought up, anxiety, and you have it your whole life, it's not going to take one meditation or one healing. It's going to take a very persistent, devoted effort, and you're not going to be devoted unless you have that motivation to do so. And definitely those doubts and skepticisms are going to impact it, because why would I want to put in all that work and energy if I don't believe it's gonna, it's gonna help and improve things in one's life?
Well, it's interesting because I think when we start to shift that mindset, and we start to become a skeptic of our skepticism. Well, we start to say, well, what if this would actually work? What if I could really align with health and not illness? What if I could really start speaking consistently, affirmations or words of truth or courage or wisdom about how I'm aligned with health, that health loves me and I love health, and words of that just start to resonate with our own soul, and then be able to start to act in those ways. And that's what Neil's talking about. My wife just sent me a little text. I'll just read it to you, Neil, that just came in. It said, "Live with enthusiasm. Let your eyes sparkle with joy, so that those who come near you feel your magnetic personality." Now, that came in from one of my teachers, my guru, Paramahansa Yogananda. But this is what we're talking about when Neil is bringing into this light back into the soul. The soul is filled with joy. The soul is filled with love, with health, with vitality, with understanding, with wisdom, with power. The soul it's right there. But we cover that up with all this, like you said, Neil, that the kind of the rust of these beliefs that seem to tone us down, make us so we're not the light anymore. Now we're just kind of walking automations filled with facts, but not necessarily wisdom. That's been my experience. All right, so somebody is. I think we talked about watching your thoughts. Let's talk about the words we speak too, because that's an important piece for people.
Very powerful. Very powerful. So what we say is there's two ways we speak. We either speak with, these are the metaphysical words we have. It's either spiritual tone that's coming out in, again, in a high, it's a high, let's just call it a vibration, right? Or there's what we call harsh sounds, right? It has a lower vibration. So there's two things we need to look at when we use our words. One is the vibration of what we say, right? So we can say something that actually sounds very loving, but it's not really the intent behind the words. So we have to really have that loving compassion and harmony and speak through that vibration. It's a vibration, but also the actual words we speak have a lot of power. And that's why we were saying earlier, with affirmations, right? If we affirm, again, I just use the example, I'm a worrier, I can't afford that, I can't do this. We're essentially putting out into the vibrated ethers, right? That energy, those words matter, right? They reflect in the ethers, and they come back to us. So it's very important. Our thoughts, our words, our actions, all of that will have an impact and effect and eventually manifest. So we have to be very careful. They're not just these inert things that we can just say. That takes a lot of practice, right? Because if and again, I'm just using myself as an example, right? With that anxiety, I had a lot of self-doubts. I had a lot of even self-deprecating humor, right? Where I would even my friends would notice it. I put myself down, right? And again, I'm saying it, quote, jokingly, right? But I'm telling myself that, right? It's going into my subconscious mind, and it's also going out into the ethers, right? So I'm very careful now where I watch what I say. I want to speak words of empowerment. I want to speak words of compassion. I want to speak words of all these different, again, higher vibrational, higher consciousness.
I love that a lot. All right. So, and by the way, if somebody wants to get a hold of the Spiritual Arts Institute and Neil Mintz, how would you suggest they do that?
Well, they can go. The website has a lot of information if you're looking at understanding more about what is metaphysics, our programs. If you are interested in learning to meditate, it's spiritualarts.org. Spiritualarts.org. We're a nonprofit, so remember it's the org, not com, but spiritualarts.org, and you can get all the information there. If you do want to reach me in particular, it's Neil, Neil, at spiritualarts.org. I love connecting with people for whatever reason, so do feel free to reach out if you'd like.
Okay, that's great. And we're scrolling that across the screen for the viewing audience, listening audience. Again, one more time, spiritualarts.org or Neil at spiritualarts.org. That makes it very easy. All right. So, Neil, we're almost out of time here. We got a few more minutes, though. If somebody is they're new on the path and they're sincere, they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, they're sick and tired of feeling anxiety, they're sick and tired of worrying, they're sick and tired of having health issues, and this isn't a be all cure all, but this is definitely a step in the right direction. What's their first steps?
Well, I want to go back to the motivation, right? It's one thing to say, okay, I like how you said, sick and tired of being sick and sick and tired. But really look at your life. Look at, again, it's back to motivation. Look at why you want to change it. Look at the why, right? And I appreciate you just mentioned it. We didn't really talk about it, Ken. You talked about purpose, right? We all have a purpose in life. We're not just here to live our life and die, right? We all have a way, whether we're a parent and we're meant to bring up our kids, or we're meant in our career to do it, but in some way we're meant to leave the earth a better way. So I'd say the first step is really look at your life and say, am I doing everything that I can? Am I really fulfilling my own personal destiny in terms of what I'm meant to do, and also my spiritual growth? But am I serving the world, right? And if you're, again, keep using the anxiety or lack of self-esteem, then you're just firing on part of the cylinders. You need to be all of who you are, right? So I'd say the first step is to really make a list of what you want to achieve in your life in terms of, and get that real excitement and enthusiasm. Because once you have it, it will motivate you. And as I said, I think at the beginning of the program, right? We honor that everybody has a different path. Some people are a religious path, and it's, they want to find God through religion. That's wonderful. That's beautiful, right? Other people are on a spiritual path like I am, right? And they want to pursue that. But I would say the next step, again, only because I'm speaking from my work, is meditation. Any form of meditation, quieting your mind. And even if it's contemplation, right? But any form of meditation will just quiet that noise, right? Because we have lots of influences from our family, from our friends, from media, from, you want to quiet that out so you can really tune into source. So I would say seek out any true form of meditation to really do that, because then you will know the answers, right? I know a lot of people look for answers outside, but, we're really big proponents on the fact that we know it within, but we need to tune in to be able to know that.
That's words well spoken, my friend. Neil, hey, I've just really enjoyed this time with you today. And, I always enjoy my time with you. And, it's the first time I think we've done the show together. And I just want to thank you for being here and connecting with me and sharing your wisdom with my audience. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ken. I appreciate the opportunity. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's been great. Well, we're a little out of time, so I got to go. Take care, Neil. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to the Helix Show. This show is for you. It's for you to see different points of views, understand different points of views, understand that we have infinite potential to heal our bodies and our minds and our souls and our spirits. We have infinite potential to do that. As Neil said, tune within so you don't go without. If you're feeling hopeless, go find some help, right? And you'll start feeling more hopeful and start to tune into your own potentiality to heal whatever it is. Nothing needs to stay the same unless you declare it so. So get on the journey and let your friends know about our show. Until next time, thank you so much.